right. We are going live here. Drop the Zoom link into the chat window here on Facebook. You want to hop on the Zoom call, I just put the link there into the video comments. So let's see, what do we got going on here? So for the month of March, the plan is I've got more than 1,000 agents uploaded into my CRM now. And plan is for the team to hit all of these agents up over the course of the month, looking for deals and to see if we can help these agents out, moving some properties either that have been sitting on the market for a long time, or they have sellers that they're talking to that don't necessarily want to list the property, or the agent doesn't want to list the property because of the condition it's in. So plan is to follow up with all these agents, see what they got available, see if we're going to be able to help them out with getting paid, earning a commission, and getting a property for an investor, and then getting a seller out from under a property that's causing them some issues. So we're just starting on that today. Got 1,050 agents in the list to call, and we'll see if we can find some deals. What's going on, Matt? How you doing?
Good. What's happening, Rob? How are you?
Good. Doing good.
No updates on that lake property we were looking at a few days ago yet. But still.
Did you have a conversation with that agent, or?
Yeah, we're still, it's a tough one because of it coming through a referral. I'm not talking direct to the seller, which honestly makes my life a little bit more complicated, but so I'm waiting to get confirmation on whether the seller is open to terms. It sounded like that might be the case, but the agent wasn't verifying with certainty, and I'd rather make sure that we're dealing in absolutes instead of, the possibility of, you know what I mean? So
yeah, sure. Yeah, when there's a middleman involved, it can make things a bit more complicated. We got a couple other deals that we're working on right now where there's somebody between us and the seller, and it's just been a painful process trying to kind of go back and forth and figuring out exactly what the seller is willing to do and what we think we would need in order to be able to sell that, get a buyer connected for that property. So yeah, it definitely makes things a bit more tricky. So all right, well, fingers crossed that we'll have something there. So yeah, for those of you tuning in, kind of a little bit of the backstory on this deal is this property was listed way back, well, maybe last year sometime, right? For a few months.
I think like July or something.
Yeah, they weren't able to sell it. And so now they're working with an agent, but wanting to sell it off market, right? And so this agent is still wanting a cut. And they've lowered their price below what it was listed at previously, but they're going to pretty much be netting the same amount, maybe a little bit less after all is said and done, right? But my concern is, well, if it didn't sell at that price when it was on the market, like, why would it sell at that price off market, especially with a lot less eyeballs on it? So So the plan is to either see if we can get a reduction on the price, or maybe the seller is going to be open to some creative financing terms that might make it a little bit more enticing for a buyer to take that on. So, but it seems to be a recurring theme right now with sellers. We sent out a bunch of offers this week and basically got told to pound sand by these agents that we sent the offers to, these cash offers that are pretty well below what the properties are listed at. But I mean, the properties have been sitting on the market for, months now at this point. And these sellers are just, have no sense of reality, I guess. They want somebody to come in and spend 150,000 that's going to live in the property when all is said and done. That's like their ideal buyer, right? Somebody that doesn't need to make a profit off of fixing this thing up. Like, they want somebody to buy it and it's going to accept all of this risk with all the work that needs to be done to it. And then basically, really have nothing to show for accepting all that risk. So, these sellers really aren't very motivated in the end, if that's kind of what they're holding out for. So yeah, so we're kind of shifting our strategy a bit from MLS, submitting offers on MLS deals at this point, to just calling up the agents directly at this point and seeing what they got that may or may not be off market. But if the seller, finding out if they've got anybody where the sellers are actually, any deals where the sellers are actually motivated enough to, have a deal at price that would make sense for somebody. So, but I mean, at the same time, the retail buyers are picking up for sure right now. And so the cash buyers aren't far behind on that. I mean, we're definitely seeing an increase in the number of inquiries we're getting on deals and the number of offers we're getting on deals. So I think it's just a matter of time before we're kind of back to where we were, like towards the end of the summer, where, things are starting to move a bit more briskly than they have been the last few months. So Jesse, I see you're on the call there. What's going on? Let's see, maybe Jesse is just lurking. So what else you got going on, Matt?
Just running a bunch of retail deals right now. I've been commuting kind of all over the place, up to Linwood, all the way down to like north of Lewis County, and it's been running me a little bit ragged.
So how far down in Lewis County are you going? Like Olympia, or is that's Thurston? Lewis is further south than that, right?
Yeah, I'm like going down to like right at the border of Lewis County, so just south of Tumwater and those areas.
Yeah, okay.
Got one buyer out in Grays Harbor.
Oh dang! So
There's a bunch of stuff if you do much out over towards the ocean, as far as languishing on market properties could be.
Yeah, we actually just sold a deal a few weeks ago, Copolis Beach out there.
Wait, which house? I showed a bunch over in Copolis.
11 Grover Street was the property.
Grover. Let me see.
It was an off-market deal.
Oh, gotcha.
So it was interesting. So they had originally, it was another wholesaler. They had bought it. They just closed on it themselves. And then they turned around and, basically tried to wholesale it. They didn't do any work to it or anything. But it's what they actually got it for. So on the tax records, the purchase price said 30 or 35K. And but they said they bought 2 houses and the total amount was something else, and they had to decide how to record the purchase price for each one of those houses. So they said they assigned the 30K to that and whatever the other amount is to the other house. So I don't know how much they ended up paying for it, but the problem was on this deal, like when it hit the 30-day mark and then that showed up in the tax records that the house was just bought for 30K. and we were marketing it for 100K initially. Everybody was like, no, like, wait, you just bought this for 30K and now you're selling it, a week later for 100K and you didn't do anything to it. So that was a bit of a challenge. And but I mean, the house didn't need a lot of work, and that was kind of like the feedback. We couldn't even get numbers out of a lot of buyers on that deal. Just because, I mean, the other challenge with that was there wasn't a ton of comps either in that area. And it didn't have a view, so it wasn't going to be like an amazing Airbnb when it was all fixed up. So we kept going back and forth with the wholesaler. Like, we had another buyer that signed an assignment but then never put up the earnest money for it. And yeah, so it was that was a pretty challenging deal to sell, but we ended up selling it for like 65K. So somebody got a house for 65,000 out there. So
I got my mic to work. I just had to
there you go, Jesse.
leave and come back.
How's it going?
Good. Forgot the question you asked me, but I recently moved to Spokane. I'm from Boston. And so I've been in the group chat for a couple months now.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen you posted about the Zoom chat, so I thought I'd join.
Cool. So you doing wholesaling, or?
I'm trying to get into wholesale. It's kind of a bad time to really get into it. There's not much going on. I'm still trying to learn and figure everything out.
Yeah, it's well, it can be a good time or a bad time, I guess, depending on how you look at it. Probably have a whole lot less competition from other wholesalers right now than you did a year ago.
Yeah, I see it's a good thing because all the cash buyers who were getting properties and able to flip it a week later just because of how the market was going, you see they're all out. So competition wise, it's good. But then I've made a couple. I actually just got off a call with an agent, and it's just
Oh, we lost your mic again for a little bit there.
Oh, I was saying I just got a call with the agent. There's a property in the valley, and it's kind of difficult to have a conversation because I don't know that much. But I do have to make those calls with the agents to learn and to,
Mm-hmm. So you don't know that much in terms of the area, or just like
I know
in general?
I've been into real estate for a couple of years now. It's just that I don't know much about the area. I don't know much about wholesaling. It's the whole, I know enough, but there's just so much to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only called, that was my third or fourth call to an agent to give an offer on. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of practice, and it's kind of difficult because every single conversation goes completely different.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the more conversations you have, right, the more comfortable you'll get. So that's,
and I did get a little comfortable, but this conversation was just completely, he didn't even he was not trying to have that conversation. Property was already on the market for 71. So I can only assume there's been so many wholesalers that he's talked to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing is to, like, sometimes I don't even talk about numbers on the calls. Like, if I'm calling listing agents on properties that are on market, I won't even like bring up a number initially, because I'll just try to get the backstory on, okay, well, why is this property sitting on the market? Well, why has it been sitting on the market for so long? Like, have you got any offers at this point? If you have, like, why haven't you accepted them? Or if it's gone pending a number of times, like, what happened there? So I just try to get the agent talking as much as possible to see if they can give any clues as to like what's going. And some of them will be just totally upfront about like, no, the seller's just like, they're just completely unrealistic about what they're able to get.
They're not budging on price. And he had a meeting too. So once he told me that off the jump from the conversation, it kind of killed like I don't know. It was just kind of unmotivating.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely don't have to count that as a loss, right? So the other thing I try to do when I'm on the phone with these agents, even if they are like, no, the seller, there's no way the seller's like budging on price. I'll be like, hey, do you have anything else like available right now or coming up? You know, because I want to get like a look at a deal that they haven't actually put on the market yet. And because I'll be like, hey, this is like the type of property I'm looking for, right? So if the seller isn't motivated, you know, enough to make a deal at a price that, you know, would make sense, do you have anything else I can take a look at? Or how often do you come across properties like this? Like, so try to keep the conversation going. It's like, just because this deal isn't going to work doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the conversation with this agent. Because basically the idea is you want to establish relationships with as many of these agents as possible and let them know exactly what you're looking for. Because if they do come across another property like this, the seller is actually motivated, or it's at a price where the numbers actually make sense, you want them to think of you and say like, oh, hey, I'm going to give Jesse a call or message Jesse, like let them know that I got this deal. You know, I know that last one didn't work, but this one might work for you, right? So yeah, it wouldn't hurt just to have that, like throw that in there to the conversation as well. And then you can follow up with that agent again in a few weeks or a month or whatever. If you haven't heard back from them, just say, hey, just want to check in, you know, see if you had anything else, you know, did you end up selling that deal? Because the other thing you never know too is like that seller could have a change in their situation, right, in a month where all of a sudden they do need to have an offer like now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just the fact that like you're having conversations with the agents are huge, even if they'll just say right off the bat that like, oh, the seller is just not gonna budge on price. I always try to like milk those conversations a little bit more to, you know, just let them know about what I'm looking for. And you know,
I tried that strategy with the first 3 calls, and
Mhm.
every call got better, but this one was just, I don't know. It was a tough conversation to have. It's like he was in a rush. It's like he was in a rush to go. I didn't expect that one.
Yeah, no, I mean that happens too sometimes. Like you'll get agents that just don't want to talk. Also,
At all.
yeah, at all. So like the minute that they hear that you're an investor, that like sets off some alarm for them, like, oh, this person just is gonna send me lowball offers on everything that I got. So I'm not
And
gonna.
I asked the question about what he like rehab wise, what he think would need to be done on the house because he's seen it, and he kind of just said, I don't know. His response was not friendly.
Uh-huh.
And I was just asking for his opinion to, you know, kind of get that report, but he terrible. It was just a terrible conversation.
Yeah, that's all right. So George on Instagram, what's going on? George says nothing makes sense in New York and he doesn't waste time with investors. What about deals that you don't want to list? Do you ever come across those? Oh man. What's going on, Jason? How you been?
Oh, what's going on, team? Nothing, man. Just working on a couple things. Busy morning, man. Busy. Um, Working on talking to white labeling CRMs and getting my call center up and running and logistics and all that kind of stuff, and still trying to work deals and some other things I'm working on. That's about it, man.
What CRM are you white labeling?
It's either going to be Go High Level or what's it, Float Track. I think I like Float Track better. At Go High Level, just yeah, I like Float Track better. It has a dark mode.
I like dark mode. Odie doesn't
It's
have
not
it.
like a true dark mode. It's like, you know, that dark gray mode. Well, it's better than all being blinded white. So, and then just overlooking and see how the flow goes. Like just starting something new. It's tough.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's about it, man. Still trying to work some deals. Got linked up with a hard money kind of private loan guy. So I'm able to do 90% and 100%. 90 purchase, 10%, I mean, and 100% rental budget.
Rehab, nice.
Yeah. So if
How
you
do they feel about assignment fees, funding assignment fees?
I don't know. I'll
Yeah,
have to ask. Why
that
would
that is a good question to ask because we've almost had deals blow up because the hard money lender does not like some hard money lenders do not finance the assignment fee. So they, obviously they'll want to see the purchase and sale agreement,
Mhm.
assignment agreements, and they'll want to see, what the wholesaler is making on the deal. And we have had some hard money lenders say, oh, well, assignment fee has to be within reason. So maybe 10% of the purchase price. And then there's some hard money lenders who just flat out will not finance the assignment fee.
That's crazy. Like you shouldn't be trying to cap me just because I'm capitalizing on you're capitalizing too. That's crazy. I don't know. We'd have some words, man. You're not going to sit there and try to stop me from making money. I'm the one actually doing the work. You just provide money. You actually had to get the work done for you to be able to put the money out there in the first place.
Yeah.
No, I need mines, whatever it is.
Yeah. So we had a deal last year where we didn't find out till like a few days before closing that the lender wasn't okay with the assignment fee. And so the buyer was like, oh, okay, well, you're gonna have to cut your assignment fee then. And or like, no, that's not gonna happen. So we basically said, hey, we're just gonna sell this to another seller, close on it ourselves. So they had put 10 or 15K earnest money in, and I'm like, I understand if you need to drop this deal because you don't have the additional capital to come up with because they were requiring a larger down payment, right? At that point. So I say, hey, I totally get it. If you need to back out of this deal at this point, like we'll just either close on it ourselves or get another buyer in here. But obviously we're not going to be able to give you your earnest money back. So like later on that evening, we get a message saying, okay, I think I found somebody who's gonna do a second position for the additional down payment or whatever. So it was kind of miraculous how that happened after
That worked out. Yeah.
Back out of the deal if we didn't cut our assignment fee, and then all of a sudden
Maybe they just said that just at the beginning because they already knew.
I know that's what happened because he came at it like, okay, here's how it's going down. You guys are cutting your assignment fee or I'm out of this deal and I'm getting my earnest money back. And I was like, no, that's not what the contract said. And that's not what we agreed to. Just because your lender didn't come through and with the terms that you want, it doesn't mean you get out of this deal. So, but we learned our lesson there in that we need to, when we get a buyer on board, we need to find out who their hard money lender is like right away, because we don't want to have this situation happen again, a couple days before closing, especially in this market where we don't have as many buyers as we did last year, right?
You got to secure the football at all stages now, man. You can't just be out there in the wind. I get it.
Yeah. So we're vetting the lenders now at this point and just making sure that whoever they have on board for their lending is okay with assignment fees and that sort of thing. So George is saying George, are you using Go High Level? He's saying Go High Level is good.
Yeah, I mean, I've used Go High Level. There's functionality in Go High Level. If you're actually doing the work yourself and you're trying to do a high volume, it's not advantageous for you to use it. Like if you're going through your contacts, no matter what stage that they're in, you can't click onto the next contact. You have to go back out, and depending on how far you are at the list, it takes you back to the top of the list. So let's say like you start over here, you just put a brand new list in, you got 5,000 contacts, all that you need to disposition throughout the call if they're going to go to appointments or call back later, whatever. Let's say you have like 15 you can see on your screen. Once you get below 15, you have to scroll up, and let's say you're at 25. You click the name on 25, whoever it is, that's Susie Peterson. You click Susie Peterson, you're making the phone call, putting in your notes. Now where do you go? Oh, you got to click back out. It takes you back to the top of the list. Then you got to go search back down to where it is. When you can just click through, like in Podio, you know how you have the arrows on the side?
Mm-hmm.
That's so much easier for calls.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do that in Go High Level. There's no other white labeling, because I've brought this up to Go High Level and the people that are white labeling them from them. Like it's not advantageous to make cold calls. Like you're hindering me, because now you're slowing down my process of making making phone calls. So that's mainly the big reason I didn't. And I went with FlowTrack, because you could just type and just go and type and go.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any backtracking or anything else. I hate backtracking. Even driving irks me.
Jesse, what are you using anything for CRM, or how are you kind of tracking like who you're talking to and stuff right now?
I'm not using anything at all. I'm still kind of pretty new. I actually had to search up what CRM meant.
Okay.
You can just use notes on your desktop. If you're on your desktop, just right click and start note. That's what I first started doing. And you start talking to people, you the name, area for the house, some Zillow links, what you talked about. Make sure you got all your, qualifying questions on there and stuff like that you have those memorized or something. But yeah, you could just start from a notepad, man. If you're just starting out, you don't need a whole CRM and waste the money. You could do it the free way very easily, very cheaply.
Yeah, I was using Google Sheets for a
Yeah,
while.
that too. Google Sheets.
Yeah, and then I moved
Just
over.
those lines, man. The lines and just the boxes. It just my eyes just boggle.
Well, somebody in one of the mentorship groups I'm in, he's consistently doing like 30K a month, and he's just using Google Docs and Gmail pretty much. And I have like no idea how he's able to keep track of all of these deals, just kind of going back and forth between these two things.
Gmail and Sheets and Docs, they don't have a signature. Like you'd have to go to DocuSign to do that. Or do they have signatures now?
No, so I mean, he's using DocuSign or whatever for his
Got you.
electronic signatures, but as far as keeping track of like who he's talking to, what
Yeah.
deals he's working on, and all that stuff, he's just using Docs to do that. And so I sat on a call with him one day, because he's a very process oriented guy. He's got like this very rigid, well-defined process of how he goes about structuring his day and stuff. And so I was expecting, when I got on this call with him, to see like this very organized CRM, everything very neat and well placed, and it was nothing like that. Like his process is very well defined as far as like what he does and how he does his outreach, and then putting the information into the docs, and then how he goes about sending the emails out and everything. But the actual data itself was just completely all over the place. So I was like, wow, this is crazy that you actually, I guess, don't have to have everything in a database in order to be able to
Or I mean, you especially like in Sheets, like I would just make another column and then just write in there, left message, whatever, after the name or whatever.
Yeah.
That's another easy way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about the CRM is that you can set up automation and reminders and things like that.
Yeah.
So you can make it a bit easier on yourself. Because what I was finding is like things start falling through the cracks. Like the more people I have reaching out to me about deals, either sending deals or buyers looking for deals or inquiring about specific deals, I was dropping the ball a lot of times following up with people on those. And so I had to get it into the data into something where I was able to track it better and set reminders for myself and things like that. So
I'm
So
usually
now-
good with that, but sometimes I need reminders as well. I'm not perfect.
yeah. So I mean, because like on some of these deals, you know, we've got like hundreds of inquiries on them. And
Mhm.
so we want to make sure, like, okay, everybody that asked about this deal, we want to make sure we want to get every inquiry to a point where they either say, I want to put an offer in on this, or I'm not interested in it. Right. So if
Yeah.
we send somebody information about a deal, we always want to follow up with that person, like as soon as they've had a chance to look at it, see, you know, what they're thinking, if we can get them in to see it, you know. But what we don't want to do is just send out, you know, 300 people inquire about a deal and then we don't follow up with anybody, and maybe somebody in there was actually would have been pretty interested and they needed a reminder to actually go take a look at the email that we sent them, right?
Mm.
So we're finding like Podio is helping us with that, as far as being able to track everybody that asks about the deal and where they are in that process, as far as they're running their numbers. Have we followed up with them yet? Have we followed up with them, but we're waiting to hear back from them? Have they scheduled a showing? Did they schedule the showing and then not show up? This is the thing, something that is driving me crazy, actually. And let's actually talk about this. Yeah, I'm kind of curious, Matt, as well. I don't know if you see this problem on retail deals, but what do you do when a buyer schedules a showing, or does this happen to you? Buyer schedules a showing and then doesn't show up? Like no phone call, just completely ghosts you. Does that ever happen to you? Like either Matt or Jason or.
Sorry, say it again, Rob. I wasn't paying attention.
No worries. So like, since you're doing more retail deals, I don't know if this happens as much, but like, so somebody says, oh, I'm interested in seeing a property. Like, I'm interested in seeing that property, right? So we like coordinate with whoever's living there or the tenant or whatever, say, hey, okay, we can get you in at 5 o'clock on Sunday or whatever. And they say, okay, yeah, that works. Let's do that. Confirm with them on Saturday night. Does Friday, tomorrow, 5 o'clock still work? Yes. We send somebody there to open it up, show the property. The buyer just doesn't show up. Like, this has happened like multiple times, and it is driving me crazy because I don't get it. Like, you wouldn't make a doctor's appointment and then just not show up to it. So why do people think it's okay to make an appointment to go see a property? We send somebody there to open it up, and then they just don't even let us know that they're not going to show up. And then they, you know, either they never respond to us ever again, or they say, oh, sorry, I was busy and I wasn't able to make it. And so does that ever happen to you guys, where people just don't, where they'll just no show to a show?
No, I haven't had any no shows.
Never. This is
No.
like, this is like not an uncommon thing for us, and we're trying.
But now that, you know, we've been talking more, Rob, a lot of these nevers are starting to happen. Like, I never had a bad JV, but now me and Rob are tight now. It's coming now. It's happening now, man.
And is it a difference between an investor or cash buyer coming in to take a look at the property versus a retail buyer? Because I'm in the same boat. I've never had that situation come up, but I'm, you know, making sure that all my retail buyers are pre-qualified or pre-approved and ready to rock and roll. So there's some commitment on their part too, before you can go and open up a door.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, what we've started to do is on any deal where it's not a lockbox, like if it's a lockbox and they can go whenever, then fine. If they don't show up, then they don't show up. But if we have to actually send somebody there or coordinate with the tenant or something like that, we're starting to ask for like a proof of funds at least. You know, say, hey, like, can you send us a letter from hard money lender or send us a proof of funds so we can get you in there. But we still had instances where they'll do that and then they don't show up. Like, we've had one buyer in particular who has done this a couple of times, actually. They'll either just not show up or they'll cancel the last minute. And so we're like, what do we do at this point? Like,
are they going there just solely just to see one of your team members then? Because I'd be pretty mad. I mean, I try to schedule mines where, you know, everybody just comes, you know, close to each other, you know what I mean? But if I'm really just going out of my way just for you, then you better show up, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I gotta
so-
drive, especially from where I'm at. I gotta drive an hour, depending on traffic. It might be
Yeah.
around minutes.
yeah, so, I mean, so these are on deals where like we've had them, we're marketing them for a week or two. And, there's maybe just been a small handful of buyers that want to see it. So it's not like we can do one time and say, okay, we have like 6 people that want to walk it, right? It might be
Yeah.
like, oh, we got an inquiry this week, got one person that wants to walk it. A few days later, we get somebody else in. So, I mean, I don't want to put impediments in the buyer's way to buying something, but I've been talking about like, do we need to tell the buyers like, hey, you need to put a $50 deposit down
Yeah.
if you want to see it, and then we'll give you the $50 back if you actually show up,
I guess I'd probably do that with the habitual one, but probably not with everybody else because you haven't established that cadence yet. But if you got somebody that habitually does that, I just want to even put them down and then let them show them, say, hey, why aren't you here? Oh, we didn't think that you're going to show like the other 20 times.
Yeah, well, if they're habitual, like I wouldn't set a time for just them. Like if they can get through when we schedule somebody else to go through,
Yeah.
right? But I'm not going to send somebody out there because this is the problem too, is like this is a relationship business, right? And if it's all about doing what you say you're going to do. So if I can't even trust you to like show up when you say you're going to be there and you let me down a number of times already, like how do I know that you're going to actually deposit earnest money if you sign the assignment or that you're going to close, right? So if I get 2 offers from 2 different people and one of them's from somebody that has no showed a number of times on the deal, on various deals, right? Versus somebody I've actually closed with, I'm more likely going to go with an offer from somebody that hasn't no showed in the past, right? So, but I don't know. I'm like open to suggestions on like how else to handle this. I'm kind of like surprised that you've never run
I
into.
guess I'm just not doing enough deals, man. I mean, you got like
don't know.
10,000 you could build, man. I'm barely pushing, 50 in town. So
All right. Well, we'll keep experimenting with things.
I don't think I want to experiment with this. Now you jinxed me, bro.
So, yeah, I was kind of curious, Matt, if you ever see this on the retail side where, I guess it's a little different because it's the buyer's agent that brings somebody through, right? So, do you tend to work more on the buyer side or listings with sellers?
I do both. Lately I've been more on the buyer side just because of the way things have shaken out. But I safeguard my time. So I try to make sure, without pissing my clients off, that they're pre-qualified and pre-approved and ready to rock and roll, just so I'm not in that situation. I know there are some other brokerages, other like, dedicated buyers agents out there that just basically like get a phone call, get a lead in their CRM, and they're off to like go open a door. And it's kind of a more chaotic, less assured sort of a system, it seems like. But these are also like, I remember a specific call with one of these agents who called themselves a buyer's agent. And I was just like, hey, like you had toured a listing that I've got. I just wanted to find out how it went. And it was like within like half an hour, or like an hour of the showing. And she was like, which listing was it? Which property? I mean, I tour so many houses. You got to be clear because I don't know which one you're talking about. I'm like, really? You were just there?
Right.
Okay. So agents come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, no, I was kind of curious, like from the sales side, like, so if you got somebody that's selling a house, right? Do you ever get agents that like, so the sellers are still living there, right? So they got to arrange access beforehand. Do you ever have agents that like will say, oh, I got a buyer coming through. Can we do 5 o'clock tonight? And then they just never show up, sort of thing, right? Does that sort of thing happen in the retail world as well?
Yeah, once in a while. Most people are pretty like courteous about rescheduling or or even calling if they're just going to be like 15 or 20 minutes late. Most people communicate decently well, but like maybe one out of every 50 or 100 showings, you might have somebody just straight no show
Mhm.
and not cancel the appointment or communicate on it.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's the thing is like, okay, it's fine if you can't make it, but like, why wouldn't you just let the person know, right? That's what I'm not like understanding. What is about these off-market deals that make these people think that, oh, okay, I'm just not gonna show up and I don't need to tell anybody about it, right? That's what's driving me crazy about these, like, it's like at
Do you
least
think it has anything to do with just like the idea of an off-market property having less like, I don't know if legitimacy is the right word, but it's more creative and a lot of people aren't used to that creativity. Whereas when a property's on market, they tend to treat it a little bit more seriously, maybe.
yeah, either that or they assume maybe, I don't know, the assumption might be that, oh, well, you're opening it for buyers from 5 to 6. So if I don't show up, there'll be other people there that I'm sure you're going to be letting through. I don't know. Maybe we need to communicate better that, hey, we're like opening this for you. So if you can't make it, let us know
I wonder if it
beforehand.
makes sense to use like an Eventbrite service or something similar to make people register for the showings, just so that way they feel like they're signing up for something that's, you know,
More
uh,
official.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
committing to something, right?
Yeah, no, that might not be a bad idea, actually. Yeah, because this just happened last week, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, and the seller was ticked off because this is like the second time this has happened. We have a deal in Yakima right now, and the seller like took the day off of work. Buyer was supposed to come through like early afternoon, didn't show up. But they did message us like later on the day and said, oh, sorry, I wasn't able to make it, but can I come tomorrow instead? And then the seller was like so mad. Oh my gosh. So I don't even know if they were going to even be able to get any more people through there at this point. And we're trying to explain it to the seller, right? And they're mad at us. And it's just been a mess. So I don't know if you run into any of this, Jesse, if you're at that point yet or not, but this is some of the fun you are going to get into if you haven't yet already.
I have a question. What works more for you guys, on market or off market?
Right now it's been off market for sure. Before the pandemic, we were doing quite a few on market deals. So before the pandemic, we're doing a lot of on market, and then the pandemic hit, and then the market like went crazy, right? Like you couldn't get anything on market at that point. Like everything was getting bid up over asking price, and so on market was nearly impossible. And now on market is really hard for the opposite reason. It's like I thought on market was going to come back in a big way with the market dropping, because I was like, oh my God, there's going to be so many deals on the MLS now, and they're just going to be sitting there, and it's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel, locking these things up. But now the problem is the sellers won't come down on their prices low enough to make sense. So we're focusing on off market stuff. We'll still take a look at on market stuff for sure, but at least in the Seattle market. I don't know how it is as much over in Eastern Washington right now, how things are over there in like Spokane and stuff, but on market has been pretty tough here since the end of the summer. Well, it's been tough. Tough for a different reason, just because the sellers are not coming down enough on price for deals to make sense. So, but that doesn't mean there's deals out there. So see, I don't want to get in your head, because it could be a limiting belief for me that I can't find a deal on market, right?
Yeah.
And it's quite possible that to still do deals on market. You just might need to look a little harder or get a little more creative about how you're looking or what properties you're putting offers on and stuff like that. So
There are a few deals, but the listing prices are just outrageous that when you come up with your ARV, you just sound like you're lowballing insanely.
right. Well, I mean, let me tell you a story here about a deal that you would never have guessed it was a deal based on the listing price, right?
Mhm.
So this was last summer, and property was listed for 375. ARV was like 425, but it needed like 80K in work. And it had gone pending once, was back on the market, had been on the market for maybe 45 days. And so I knew the listing agent though. And so she reached out and she said, hey, can you get a cash offer for me on this? Like they just need to sell it. And so I ran the numbers and I was like, this isn't a deal. And she's like, I just need an offer. And so I was like, took a look at it and I was like, I can give you an offer, but you're not going to like what it is. And she's just like, just send it to me. So I was like, it's going to need to be, so it's listed for 375. I was like, it needs to be 200K. And then I'm like,
Wow.
waiting for her just like to start cursing me out. And so she's like, I kind of figured that's about where it would need to be. Like, she's like, let me talk to the seller. So she talked to the seller, came back, and she's like, how about we do 206? So it covers the commission. And I'm like, what? So I figured I could like probably wholesale this for like 220 or 230, right? So we put it out there at 240 initially, and then got a few offers on it, and ended up selling it at 225. So the moral of that story is, like, I would have completely passed on this deal, right? If I was just looking at the MLS, this person has listed 375, 425 ARV. I would never have in a million years guessed that I could have locked that up at 200, right?
206.
Always shoot your shots.
Yeah. Yeah. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And then there was another deal that I did miss out on. Similar story. It was an agent I was working with knew the listing agent, and the listing agent said, hey, the seller is motivated. And they were listed at 400. And so I ran the numbers on it and I was like, we need to be at like 300, probably could wholesale it for maybe 310, 315 or something like that. Or I'll just buy it myself at 300. And so the agent I was working with had some medical issues. So she was going to be unavailable for a few weeks. So I was working with her assistant. She contacted the listing agent, and the listing agent was like, no, don't bother sending anything under 350. And so I was like, oh, let's just send it anyway. And she's like, no, we're going to be wasting our time. I was like, fine, let's check back in a few weeks then, if it's still available and sitting on the market, we can submit the offer. So they dropped the price to 375, goes from 400 to 375. And I said, hey, let's submit the offer. And she's like, no, she already said they're not going to take a look at anything under 350. And I was like, okay, let's give it a couple more weeks. If it's still sitting there, let's have a conversation with them, see where they're at. So a couple more weeks go by. I check back in, and the thing is already sold. And guess what price it sold for?
320.
305.
Wow.
And I was kicking myself, and I was like, hey, like next time, let's, even no matter what the agent says, let's just send the offer in, because they got to show the seller, they got to show it to the seller, right? And you don't know what that seller is going through, and they might just be open to taking that offer. So that's another story where I actually missed out on one, because, first of all, the price was way below what it was listed at, what our offer price was going to be. And then we had this agent saying, don't bother submitting the offer, right? And then they end up taking an offer, 45K below what they had said. So
Is that like a strategy that agents use? to just get any offers or?
Sometimes, I mean, it depends on the agent and how savvy they are. And, so some agents will kind of know that what their seller is asking for is unrealistic. But they'll do it anyway to get the listing, knowing full well that they're going to have to either drop the price or take a lower offer. But, there's also agents that are just clueless. They believe the seller, or they think themselves that property is worth that amount of money, right? So
Another question, how much influence would an agent have when it comes to a seller wanting to put it for 475? Or would that just be the relationship between them?
like, so if the property, like the as is value is like what, like 400?
Uh-huh. And then let's say the seller wants to put it for 475. As an agent, can you try to get them to put it at a reasonable, like?
Yeah, so you got a number of different like varieties of agents, right? You got agents
Oh,
that
okay.
will be upfront with the sellers and be like, hey, like I'm not gonna list
That's
this.
not realistic shit.
Yeah, it's
I
not,
see.
gonna sell here, like, because some agents like don't want to have their own listings like sitting out there, right, with a bunch of price reductions on it. And so they'll just be upfront like, hey, if you want to sell this thing, you're gonna have to be closer to 400. And if you're telling me you need to get 475 or that's what you want to get, I can't do that for you, right? And so they'll actually turn down the listing. And then you have other agents who say, yeah, well, we give it a shot, but
I see. So I see.
know that you're gonna potentially have to drop the price on this. So just in order to get the listing, and then the thing is sitting out there for months and months and months. And then the agent could be panicking because the seller's like screaming at him, like, why isn't this thing sold yet? And
Then they don't have the right answers.
right, yeah. So
There are some unrealistic listings here that just, when you come up with your ARV, it just doesn't even make sense to make the call.
well, see, so I would say it doesn't hurt to make the call, because if you look at it from the point of view of not necessarily that you want to try to lock up that deal, but look at it from the point of view you're establishing a connection or a relationship with a new agent, right? And if that deal sucks badly, you never know if that agent has something else that they're working on, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Doesn't hurt to let them know what you're looking for, like that you're looking for those type of properties, but at numbers that make more sense, from an investor standpoint. So
Rob,
there
how
are
much
some
did the- Oh, sorry, go ahead.
there are some friendly real estate agents, like investor friendly agents out there.
yeah,
Because
for
the
sure.
conversations I've had, they haven't been like, they understand that this property is all cash, most likely will be wholesaled. But then it's just they haven't been too interested in, I don't know. It just, from the videos I watch on YouTube to how they go, it's not that, just doesn't seem like, I don't know, they just don't seem too investor friendly.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Sometimes because they don't know how they're going to get paid.
yeah, exactly.
If you could work with an agent, and if it's off market, whatever, and it's just getting them paid. That's the only thing they really care about. Like, hey, I'm going to get you paid. Let's work this. That's all they really want to hear. And getting them paid is all they need to hear for them to work for it. That's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, and a lot of them too, don't necessarily understand the investment world and wholesaling and what that is, and so a bit of education can help there, as well as like how can you, as a wholesaler, bring value to them, right? And it kind of goes back to them getting paid, right? So if that's like kind of the pitch for me is like, hey, like you got these listing appointments you go to and you decide not to list these properties because the condition they're in, or they just are in a really tight timeline or whatever, is like, I can help you like still earn a commission on those deals, and in turn I can get a cash buyer plugged in that's going to want to flip them. So, if you get something like that and come across it, you don't necessarily need to turn it down, but let's take a look at the numbers on it, and maybe we can still make something happen there, even if you choose that, it's not a good fit for a listing.
Rob, how tight of deals are you willing to work for listings that have sat on market for a long time? Because I come across a lot of things and I don't mind spending some time to deep dive just to make sure we're not, spinning our wheels. But, if I see something where it's like, maybe,
Mhm.
is that beneficial for me to bring to the table and let you decide? Or is there kind of a like rule of thumb that you try to apply to some of those deals just to filter the junk out?
Yeah, so I mean, so I kind of had set up Podio so we're importing everything in from the MLS in King and Pierce County right now, and kind of applying like an ARV estimate to it, a rough estimate, and then sorting it by like percent of ARV, so list price to ARV, right? So, but kind of like I had those two examples that I gave, those two deals would not have looked very good as far as numbers go based on the list price, right? So I think, and this is kind of my feeling with this, is like anything where the listing remarks or the agent remarks indicate some sort of motivation there. So motivate cash as is, investor like fixer, TLC, like anything like that. And the property's been sitting on the market for 45 plus days. I would just start calling like all those agents and kind of gauging the motivation level, right? And it's all a numbers game then at that point. So but what we were doing before the pandemic, we were just submitting blind offers on stuff, right? And it was working. But that's not the case now, because I feel like now you actually need to have a conversation and get an understanding of what's going on there, and feel the agent out to see if they're truly motivated or not. So yeah, I guess the short answer to the question is like, I mean, if you come across something that's like 80% of ARV, like right off the bat, it probably wouldn't hurt to like call that agent up and see, because maybe if you can get them down another 10 or 15%, there could be a deal there, maybe, right? So,
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind when I'm filtering through, because I come across a lot of stuff and I'm like, man, I should deep dive into this. And it's like I wind up getting sidetracked. And if I better organize and prioritize that thought into my routine, I think that, maybe there's a few deals a year or something we could line up that way.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Any other questions, comments? I'll probably do another. I'm going to do another Facebook Live today, actually, after lunch, after I have lunch here. I'm going to just start calling some agents up. So if you want to tune in for that a little later, you can heckle me as I see if I can find some deals.
What time will you do that?
Maybe in about 30 minutes or so. I'm gonna go grab some lunch, and I'll come back down here, check some messages. I'll come back down to my office here, and I'll start blowing up some agents' phones.
You said on Facebook Live?
Yeah, I'll do it on Facebook Live. Yeah.
Would I need to add you as a friend for that?
Oh, are you friends with me on Facebook? Or how'd you find out about the Zoom call?
I was on the Spokane group, and I was trying to find your page again, but then I don't even know how I got to it. I don't know. It was kind of weird.
Okay, let me see if I can find it.
Oh, there it is. February 27th, Wholesaler Office. Yeah, you made a post on the 27th, and then I seen the Zoom link in the comment section.
Oh, okay. I think I see. Does it say you still live in Boston right now? Or is this something else?
Because I'm not really a Facebook user, but I had to download it to join these real estate groups.
I see.
So I haven't really updated anything, just downloaded, joined, and
Let's see. Okay, yeah, message me or send me your contact info in the chat here. Just drop your contact info in the chat here.
Hey, Rob, I'm gonna get you those answers so I can be your next funding agent
For answers for what?
for the money. I'm
For the
private
money?
guy.
Oh, okay, okay.
I just sent the friend request.
I'll talk to you guys later.
All
I
right,
might jump
cool.
back on later. I don't know. I guess I'm pretty busy today. But see you guys later. If not, see you guys next Wednesday.
All right, take care, guys.
Sounds
See
good.
ya.
Yeah.
I just sent you the friend request, Rob.
All right, cool. I will accept it and I'll see you in a little bit.
All right, sounds good.
Cool, take care. Bye-bye.